Welcome to the Sports Talk with the Byalls. Each week we'll discuss, debate, and answer tough questions in the sports world. During this week's show, we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl, along with a look into the college basketball world. Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl 58 champions. It's the first back-to-back championship, 2003-2004 New England Patriots. I feel like the game lived to its hype. Austin?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, it
was more in there for the first couple quarters.
Yeah, I was saying that to one of our friends. I'm like, this is like a Big Ten football game here, but it got cooking at the end. We all said that we thought it was going to be a great game, and it would come down to the end, and that's what it did. So.
Yep. Well, in all three of the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs did trail by 10 or more in all three of them. That's really impressive. Mahomes has now his 15 career playoff wins, only behind Brady and Montana in NFL history in the playoffs. Mahomes and Tom Brady, the only quarterbacks to ever win 3 Super Bowls before turning 29. And there's only 3 players with 3 Super Bowls and 2 MVPs. And that is Brady, Mahomes, and Montana. So we are kind of talked about, but why and how did the Chiefs win this game for you, Austin?
Yeah, first of all, I'm going to give credit to the defense first. Again, I think Chris Jones was the X factor in this game. I mean, you can honestly debate that he was the key to winning this game. On the third down stop in overtime, he got in the way of Brock Purdy's throwing, so then he had to throw a dud or throw it away. So they had to end up kicking a field goal. So he was just disrupting all the passes. He did it multiple times in regulation too. So give props to Chris Jones. And then Mahomes, obvious answer. He was the key to this game. I mean, there's not much to say about Mahomes. I already expected when he got the ball, he was going to go down and win the game, and that's what he did.
Yeah, it felt like the defense is what got Mahomes to that point in the game. I mean, you talked about earlier in the first drive of the game, the defense forced a fumble with CMC. Then to start the second half, Mahomes throws that interception on the third play of the game. 49ers start on the Chiefs 44. They forced a 3 and out. And then they held the 49ers to 2 field goals in the fourth quarter in overtime. I'd give a lot of credit to defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. He deserves a lot of credit in this game. He drew up a lot of schemes at the end. I remember that play. And it was the fourth quarter. It was like, I think it was third down for the 49ers. They had a shot to they scored. If they got a first down, they'd basically run the clock out and kick a field goal. And he put a blitz from the right side, and McDuffie tipped the ball, and probably if not, that would probably have been a first down for the 49ers. And then I think you mentioned in overtime, Chris Jones on that third down on the goal line for the 49ers, like he got through the middle, disrupted that, and then because Purdy had a wide open Greg Jennings on like a whip route on the outside. So I think the Chiefs deserve a lot of credit. Other defense deserves a lot of credit.
Before you keep talking, I'd just like to say, we all talked all along about how the Chiefs defense was elite this year, and they proved themselves. Again, I don't think that the Kansas City Chiefs who they were this year, because their offense was not as good. I mean, we know clearly it was not as good. They just had Mahomes, but their defense was elite, and they need to get some of these guys signed. Don't just say that.
Before we move on, but I feel like with Mahomes now, we kind of talked about it during that game. It was like the 49ers want to get the ball back to Mahomes. Are you sure you don't want to go for it and try to end the game here? But I think Mahomes now he's on that tier with Tom Brady by himself. Those two are up there. It's like we weren't alive for when they won their first couple with Tom Brady, and then you watch Tom Brady's gonna score. Tom Brady's gonna score, and I feel like with Mahomes now, as soon as they gave the ball back to the Chiefs, it's like the Chiefs are gonna win this game. But you mentioned earlier that signing some of these guys back with the Chiefs has some pretty big up and coming free agents. One being Chris Jones, who was a massive piece in that game. Remember, he sat out the first maybe 2 games this year, held out because of our contract. So it'd be important to bring him back. L'Jarius Sneed, who made some massive plays in that game, probably their best DB, him and McDuffie. And then Drew Tranquill, the linebacker, Willie Gay, the linebacker, Tommy Townsend, the punter, who kind of had a big key play in that game where he punted down there, hit off the guy's leg, and the Chiefs scored 3 plays later. That was he's one of the best punters in the NFL. McCole Hardman, who scored the game-winning touchdown, they traded for during the middle of the season, and Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Donovan Smith, the left tackle. So the Chiefs have $22 million in cap space to bring, I'd imagine, a couple of these guys back. They'll probably do some more contract restructures and get some of these guys back. But Mahomes mentioned after the game, and I think during the game they mentioned, during the pregame interviews, there was after this game, the Chiefs are what? And Mahomes said dynasty to the guy that interviewed him. Do you think this is obviously a dynasty? How far do you think this thing can go with Mahomes and them?
Yeah, I think it could go a long ways. Mahomes is, just like you said earlier, like Montana, Brady, all these elite quarterbacks, he's like that. When he gets the ball, he's going to score. We're going to talk about probably later on about if they should received the ball first or they should have kicked it off, 49ers-wise. Because, guys like Brady and Mahomes, they're going to score when they get the ball. in these big moments. I mean, I think it's the start of a dynasty. I don't know why anyone wouldn't think it is. And I think it can go as far as 6, 7 Super Bowls, just like Brady did.
Yeah, well, Mahomes after the game said this is the start of a new one, and we are not done. And then Kelsey, people kind of question Andy Reid and Kelsey. Maybe they'd retire after this season and stuff. And Kelsey said he wants that three-peat after. And speaking of Kelsey, I mean, he was non-existent in that first half with 1 catch for 1 yard. And then he had that little sideline thing with Andy Reid. What were your kind of thoughts about that? A lot of people were saying, oh, he needs to be benched. He needs to be benched. And it was like, I don't know. What did you think about that?
Yeah, it's a big game. Emotions run high. But if Andy Reid's not upset, then no one else should be upset. I mean, those guys have been best buds for, I don't know how long he's been there, 10 years, whatever. So it's whatever. I mean, people can talk all they want, but those guys are friends at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think people, like, if Andy Reid wouldn't have, like, almost kind of fell down, people wouldn't have made a big deal of it. But I think he said it caught him off guard, which I would imagine I don't think he expected him to come over there. But I don't want to be the guy that does this, but is Mahomes already in the GOAT talk with Tom Brady?
He's in the GOAT talk, definitely, but he's definitely not the GOAT yet. You got plenty of years. I mean, I think he will be in the end. I think he will pass Brady, but you got a long time coming. Injuries, Mahomes is a lot different than Brady was. Mahomes is more mobile. That's one of his key attributes, and just the way he plays the game. So any bad knee injury or any of that could ruin his career, and that could not make him to be the GOAT. So he's definitely the GOAT talk.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about it yesterday. It was like, for Brady, like the way style he played, it for him, like, he could be a pocket quarterback till he's 44. Like Mahomes, I don't know if he's going to be improvising and scrambling, how many key plays did he make with his legs Sunday night. And so, but here's some playoff stats before turning 30 between Brady and Mahomes. Brady had 3,000, a little over 3,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 3 Super Bowls, and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. So Mahomes is only 29, so he's still got 2 more years. He already has over 5,000 yards, 41 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 3 Super Bowls, and 3 Super Bowl MVPs. And I don't think you brought this up earlier, but you know, we watched the game together, and it was like a couple times in that fourth quarter, the 49ers were bringing pressure. It's like, I don't know if that's like how many wide open he had the Rashid Rice on the underneath route, and then they had that one where it was like that fourth down, like they brought pressure, and he went out and he either had Kelsey in the flat or he could run it. It's like, I don't know. There was one time Kyle Shanahan, he called a timeout, and Tony Romo was like, he's telling Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator, is like, hey, we got to run something. Like, let's not look at this pressure. It's like, a couple of times it was just like, what are they doing?
The defensive play calling in that second half and that overtime was not the best for the 49ers. I don't know what was going on. Like, Mahomes is, I mean, you can see a blitz coming a mile away. I mean, they got like 8 guys lined up on the line ready to send the house. Like, he's going to get the ball off. I don't know who they think this guy is, but play calling was not very good. This is not Jared Goff out here, folks.
Yeah. Okay. We need to throw shots at Jared Goff.
Well, it's true. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff's completely different. One's more mobile and one is a better player. There's nothing wrong with Jared Goff.
Yeah.
He was top in the league this year, but when you have Patrick Mahomes, there's a difference.
I think I remember play too. It was like when I think it was MVS. He caught the ball and then he ran backwards, and it was like 2nd and 14, and like they guys line up 10 yards off him, and they throw like a Duncan deep for like 7 yards. It's like 3rd and 7. It's like what do you do? You gave free 7 yards there. Now it's like 3rd and manageable. So definitely some questionable calls at the end for the 49ers, and another questionable call during the game was the OT decision. So the game was in overtime. Their new playoff rules, I mean, there were some people who were confused. I mean, the fans, I'm sure, were confused if they don't follow the NFL that often, if they're thinking the regular season rules. But in the OT, the 49ers won the toss, decided to receive. In the regular season, that's definitely the right call, but playoff rules are different. Both teams get the opportunity to have the ball. And so after the game, defense tackle Eric Armstead for 49ers said, I didn't even know about the new playoff overtime rule, so it surprised him. I think 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan said that him and his team discussed the overtime possibilities, but they must not have discussed it with the players. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk said, you know what? I didn't even realize the playoff rules were different in overtime. So that was a big aspect of the game, because there was, during the time when they elected to receive, I was like, okay, that's probably the right call, because you can get a 3rd possession. So if the 49ers would have scored a touchdown and the Chiefs would have scored a touchdown, the 49ers could have won it if they would have got the ball back. So I'm like, well, that makes sense. But looking back at it now, it's like, do you really want Mahomes to dictate the game? What do you think about that?
Before we even go into that, I was just so confused on his OT. Like, why is there a clock down there on the screen if it's not over at 15 minutes?
Essentially felt like it was college.
College, it just it says OT. Both teams get the ball. I mean, I know they get a 25, but who cares? Both teams get the ball. If all the time in the world, do what you want. I mean, I thought like the clock's running down, and I mean, I know a lot of people did like, oh yeah, they're out there to kick a field goal. Like even the defense, if they're out there, they didn't know that it's just another game. Oh, just keep going, second quarter or whatever in overtime. If you're a defensive guy and you're just trying to hold to a field goal, I didn't like that. I think it was kind of confusing the way the NFL had it there. But again, with the taking the ball first, I kind of agree with it in the moment because I feel like the defense would be tired up, and then you realize it's Super Bowl. You gotta gut it out. And again, if I'm the 49ers there's no way it's 4-down territory. Like, you don't kick field goals. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is going to come down and score a touchdown. You're not kicking no field goal. You go for it on 4th down. I mean, fall short, so be it. I mean, at least you tried to score a touchdown because, you ain't beating Mahomes kicking field goal.
You essentially gave Mahomes 4-down territory the whole way down the field. Because even if the 49ers would have scored a touchdown, 4-down territory all the way down the field, you let Mahomes dictate the game. And then Mahomes said after the game that they were going to go for 2 even if they would have scored. And that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, the 49ers score, the Chiefs are probably going to go for 2 if they come down and score.
Well, taking that ball there, you have to go for a touchdown. If you're going to take it first, you're going for a touchdown no matter what. Like, I think it would probably be better to take it second just so you could have the game in your hands because if they scored, you come down and you're it's 4-down territory the entire time, and then you can go for 2 to win the game.
It was essentially college overtime rules because in college you always elect to go on defense first so you can control the game and stuff. But that was the most watched Super Bowl of all time, though. Average viewers of 123 million viewers. That was pretty impressive. I mean, I feel like the game lived to its hype, so that it was good for some of the casual fans.
Second half did.
Second half, yeah. Well, the end definitely. The first half, I'm sure there are a lot of fans.
Like Big Ten football.
Yeah. CBS apparently had more than 200 million viewers at one point in the game. That is incredible. The game of football is only growing in the NFL. It's special. Obviously, as an NFL and sports fan, it's sad to see the NFL end because, it takes up so much of your time watching the NFL and, watching these great players like Mahomes and all those players continue to play well. But, it'll be around next year, and some of the guys will be back from injury, so it should be another exciting year next year. Before we move on to that, Usher performed at halftime. I know you and I aren't the biggest musical fans, but what did you think of the halftime performance stuff?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Again, he did a lot more dancing than singing. I know he's known for dancing, but I don't know. I feel like we need to get, a couple artists out there that a lot of people know their songs for. Because for me personally, I only knew one song from him that he sang, and I think everyone else, that was the most the case unless you were a big Usher fan. But it wasn't bad. I mean, there's been a lot worse halftime performances.
Yeah, I felt like he was a generation, or not, a decade and a half probably above our age. So I feel like there were a lot of people who said it was really good because they forgot he sung that song back when they were in middle school and high school. And for me, I was like, I only knew one song. And, I don't really envy the person who decides who performs the halftime show because you're going to get discredit for whoever you pick because there's ages from 90 to 10 years old that watch Super Bowl. Like, no one has the same. There's not going to find one artist who's just going to fit everyone's needs. So, but I feel like it was good compared to some of the years before. But all that being said, let's move into the college basketball world. Last week, Austin and I, we make our daily picks every week. And last week, Austin continued his hot streak going 3-1 as I could fall to 2-2 again. So I need to catch up some ground this week.
7-1, my record is. And Zach's 4-4 in total.
We got a long ways to go for college basketball world. So I'm not too concerned about there. So your overall thoughts on this past week, and there were a lot of good games. Which one stuck out to you the most, and what were you excited about last week?
Yeah, I think Gonzaga winning again. I think that kind of showed again, in my opinion, that Kentucky is overrated. So their defense, you could just not allow. They're on 90 points at home, whatever it is. You know what it is?
Yeah, I don't know the exact sack, but
that's just ridiculous. I mean, Butler's had problems with their defense this year, and they had problems again on Saturday, which again, Butler won. That was another one of my takeaways. It was a controversial ending, let's just say that. At least some people would say.
That is for sure.
We could maybe talk about that later. And then another thing that stood out to me is that IU basketball is in trouble.
Yeah, you definitely hit on that last week with IU basketball. That we know you're not the biggest IU fan, but they're not very good. Some of the games the past weekend, Baylor lost to Kansas 64-61 in a game where Kansas' second best player did not play. You mentioned earlier Gonzaga goes on the road and gets a key resume win. That essentially that was the first quad win. That could essentially put him in the tournament. So that was a massive win, and that could essentially put Kentucky starting to fall towards the bubble if they can just continue. So they won 89-85. Illinois at Michigan State 88-80. There were some controversial calls in that game as well. Indiana at Purdue. Purdue blitzed Indiana for the second time this season, 79-59. Some other games: North Carolina at Miami. North Carolina 75-72. Tennessee at Texas A&M. Texas A&M got another crucial one for their resume, 85-69. You mentioned Providence at Butler, 75-72. on a controversial ending. And then Wisconsin at Rutgers. Wisconsin's lost 3 or 4 games in a row? 4 games?
4 games in a row versus Michigan, Rutgers, Purdue, and who was the other one?
I don't remember, but still, I mean, at one point we were talking about, this team could win a national championship.
Yeah,
now it's like
the media was. I wasn't.
Okay, that doesn't mean okay, that's fine. But then Rutgers lost. Wisconsin lost 78-56 to Rutgers, who is not a tournament team. So we kind of mentioned earlier some controversial endings. It feels like there's been a lot of controversial endings at the end of college basketball games this year. How do you fix it? Because I understand like refs don't want the game to be called. Like I understand that you don't want a call to be called like at the 12-minute mark in the first half. The same at the end of the game. I get that. But it's like a foul is a foul. Like you can't miss an obvious call.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, you gotta draw a line. But again, like people don't want a game in and on some foul. I understand.
I agree.
Like I think we both agree. You don't want some little cheese ball foul or even a foul like that would be called at 12 minutes be called on the last play. But there's got to be draw a line there. So,
but what is that? Like the line is a judgment from the referees.
Yeah,
there's no
judgment.
rule book.
I mean, I don't know. Again, look at that Butler game. The angle and how fast the game is going out at time is kind of hard to, make that call. I mean, you go back and replay as people say all they want. Going like in the moment, it's so hard to make that call.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of games that come to mind this year when it comes to controversial innings. That Duke Clemson game where Tyrese Proctor got a foul called for him.
That was bad.
That was, and then obviously being a North Carolina fan, literally that Tuesday. So that game was Saturday, that Clemson Duke game. North Carolina goes at Georgia Tech. RJ Davis blocking call obvious. That foul is called every time during the game. Doesn't get called. We lose. Massive part of us being a 1 seed. So the same back-to-back calls. Our call being worse doesn't get called. Then I'm thinking back to when we went to the Purdue Northwestern game. At the end, there was a hook and hold that didn't called. Purdue shoots like 40 free throws that game. Northwestern shoots 7. Like that game.
Well, Purdue shoots a lot of free throws every game they play.
I understand that, but the 40-8 free throw disparity is incredible. And then this weekend with the Butler game, and then even the Michigan State-Illinois game, there was a couple of technicals called. Tom Izzo was on the floor, basically at the free throw line, yelling at his guys during the game. It was crazy. The college basketball world is exciting. I know college basketball isn't necessarily everyone's type of tea, but if you like a team, it's fun. I mean, it's fun. You get storylines every week. You sit down at 12 o'clock or even 11 watching College Game Day. You sit down at 12 through midnight. You can watch college basketball. Yeah. So, but we also watched the NBA this weekend. I know you're a KD fan, and I like Curry, and that was a great game on Saturday night too. Since the college basketball world, there was a couple blowouts going on during that time, and we'll get into the NBA more as the playoffs come around. And I'm not the expert on the NBA, but it's fun to get talking about in the playoffs when there's all the good players and good teams playing. But that was a fun game, and the Warriors get back on track and starting to pick up wins here. But let's talk about the upcoming games in college basketball this week. We'll make our picks on these 6 games this week. We're continuing to increase the games we pick this week since the NFL season is over and there's not as much to talk about. But the first game, Texas Tech at Iowa State. Texas Tech got a big win last night against Kansas, who was without Kevin McCullough. So that obviously is a massive loss for Kansas, but beating them 79-50. That was, I think I saw on Twitter, or excuse me, X, that was the biggest loss Kansas had on the road to an unranked team. And I don't know how many years it was, but it was a long.
I don't know how Texas Tech dropped out of the rankings. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, we could talk about like one of her shows that the rankings don't. Yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that much. But both these teams are battling out in the Big 12 as Iowa State tries to continue to assert themselves as one of the better teams in the country and in the Big 12. So for that game, another game, Texas A&M at Alabama, number 15 Alabama. That game is at 12 o'clock. This week, A&M plays Vanderbilt tonight, so that should be a pretty pickup game for A&M. That could only hurt them, not really help them. And A&M is looking to pick up a massive resume booster after they beat Tennessee this weekend at home, as Alabama looks to stay at top of the SEC as they continue to fight for a top seed. A game that we will be at, number 17, Creighton at Butler, 12:30 on Fox on Saturday. Creighton looks to get revenge on Butler after losing 99-98 at home a few weeks ago. That was a very exciting game. So hopefully this game that we go to is very exciting as well. Butler looks to certify themselves as a tournament team this week as they face Marquette tonight. That is a massive game for the Butler. And then Creighton plays home to Georgetown tonight, which is a gimme win for every Big East team besides DePaul. Texas at Houston, 1 o'clock on CBS on Saturday. Texas looks to pull up a massive upset as Houston looks to remain number 1 in the Big 12. Kentucky at Auburn, that is ESPN's primetime game for Saturday at 6 o'clock. Kentucky looks to get their first win at Auburn in over 3 years. So I remember a couple games obviously Auburn was really good in these past couple years, and the game day's always been there for Kentucky Auburn, but Kentucky hasn't seemed to get Auburn's number there, and Auburn, when they play at home, that place is rocking. Kentucky plays at home to Ole Miss tonight, so that is a big game. And then as Ole Miss tries to boost their resume for the tournament, and Auburn plays South Carolina tomorrow, which is probably one of the best matchups of the week, as South Carolina and Auburn are both at the top of the SEC. The biggest game of the week, though, number 4 Marquette at number 1 UConn, 3 o'clock on Fox on Saturday. Marquette looks to close the gap on the dominating UConn Huskies in the Big East as UConn looks to extend their massive lead in the rest of the Big East. As we talked about, if Marquette loses tonight and then UConn wins Saturday, they honestly might just clinch the Big East there because I think they'll be up.
I think UConn's going to clinch it anyway.
Yeah, 4. I think they're up 2.5.
They're up a lot right now. I don't think there's much shot of anyone catching UConn. So
yeah, well, so Marquette, we already mentioned, plays Butler tonight, so that's a big game for both those teams. And then UConn plays DePaul tomorrow, and they could throw their walk-ons on out there and beat them. But let's make our predictions for this week. As we mentioned earlier, Austin's 7-1 in overall this year, and I'm 4-4, so we got catching up to do. Also, we'll start with our first game, Texas Tech at Iowa State. Who do you got winning that game?
Yeah, it's going to be Iowa State for me. Iowa State is undefeated at home this season. They don't lose at home. Texas Tech is a good team. I'd say that, but again, it's like you go to a team's place, you're not expected to win, and Iowa State, especially at their home court, is pretty good this year. One of the best in college basketball.
Yeah, that place is incredibly hard to play at, but I think I have to agree with you with Iowa State winning this game. As Texas Tech beat Kansas last night, I'm starting to lean that Texas Tech could pull off the upset, but I'm going to stick with Iowa State winning this game just for the fact they're at home. They already beat teams like Houston at home, who's one of the best teams in the country. So I'll stick with Iowa State. You'll go with Iowa State. How about Texas A&M at Alabama?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Alabama here. Texas A&M, they've been streaky this year. They got a few good wins, but I don't think they're a good enough team to go at Alabama and winning that game. So I'm going to go with Alabama.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you here. This is not good for my picks because we're picking the same teams here, but I feel like Alabama or Texas A&M, their biggest wins of this year at home, and so going on the road, it's always tough no matter who the team is, and so I'll stick with Alabama. Creighton at Butler. We'll be in the house for this one. Are you going against your Bulldogs?
Absolutely not. Butler. It's Hinkle Magic, baby. It's going to be rocking on Saturday. It's going to be rocking the night. Yeah, we're going to pick up this dub, and we're going to assert ourselves into the tournament, hopefully.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to, sorry to go against here, but Creighton's going to pick up this game. This is a revenge game for Creighton, okay? Losing at home to Butler earlier this season is not going to fly well. Creighton's going to pick up a massive dub on Saturday at the game. I will be rooting for Creighton, even though I don't think Creighton's as good as people think they are because they lack the defense and are a streaky shooting team. But I will have to go with Creighton. That is that. I mean, I know we took out a game a couple weeks ago, and I was ready for Villanova when we went. And it's not that I have anything against Butler. It's just the fact that it's you're rooting for Butler. So it's nothing against Butler. It's just the fact that he's a Butler fan. Texas at Houston. Texas. They picked up a couple good wins recently. How do you see this game going? This is at Houston, so this is a big game for Texas if they want to boost their resume for the tournament.
Give me that upset. That's all I'm going to say. I think Max Asmus will have a big game and entire center. I think he's one of the sleeper for that team. He's so inconsistent, I feel like. And last time they played Houston, he did not play well, but I think Texas gets this upset. I'm excited for this one. I really do think it's going to be a dogfight just because it's, in-state rivalry, close to each other, and good game.
Yeah, this is a matchup that only lasts for 1 year as Houston moved to the Big 12 this year, and Texas is leaving the Big 12 and going to the SEC next year. So we'll probably only see this once in conference play. But I'm going to go with Houston. There's no way I'm betting against Houston at home. Their defense is usually top-notch when they're at home and holding the teams to probably under 60, I would imagine. So I will go with Houston. Kentucky at Auburn. Austin, who do you got?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Auburn here. It's at Auburn, first of all, and then you guys already heard me talk about Kentucky this year. Their defense is just not good at all, and I think it just makes them overrated by that fact.
Yeah, I feel like Kentucky, this is probably their biggest week of basketball in a while. I don't remember the exact stat, but I saw this thing. It was like they're 3 for 30 in game-winning or game-tying shots over the last, I think it's like 3 or 5 years. That is insane.
Oh, one was against North Carolina.
No. Then they're 15 and 21.
Oh,
teams make 15 to 21 game-winning or game-tying shots, and of course North Carolina is one of the 6 teams that did not make the game-winning or game-tying shot against them. But that's all right. I'm going to go with Auburn in this game. I mentioned earlier that Kentucky hasn't beat them in 3 years at home, so I think that continues to Saturday. And for the big-time game of the week, Marquette at Creighton. Do you see anyone knocking off UConn in the Big East right now?
Absolutely not. Again, UConn will win this game. They're the best team in the country. I'm sorry. It's just they have no weakness at all. Every position out there is so they can just go for 30 every night, like any night. UConn's the best team in the country. I don't really think they lose this year unless somebody shoots out of their mind against them in the tournament.
Yeah, I was talking to someone this week about UConn, and I was saying, like, it feels like UConn can play their okay game against a really good team and still beat them. That's how good they are. And so I think even if they do play an okay game against Marquette, they're just so, like you mentioned, they're so deep. You sub a guy in, they bring somebody else in, they're dropping 20 and stuff like that. So I think UConn is the best team in the country right now. I know this won't probably go well with Purdue fans around here, but they just are. And I think UConn is easily the favorite right now to repeat back-to-back championships. And so I'm going to go with UConn. Alrighty, Austin, since the NFL season's over, what most are you looking forward to next year in the NFL? I know there's a lot of injuries this year and stuff like that. And an up-and-coming, really hype draft class that is coming in with quarterbacks. What are you most looking forward to?
Joe Burrow returning. That's what I'm most looking forward to.
Well, he played this year.
No, but returning, the full status, fully healthy, coming in there, winning the Super Bowl, knocking off Mahomes. That's what I want to see next year. I do think it's going to be a lot harder for the Chiefs next year. I really do. I don't think it's going to be as easy.
They said that this year.
No, but, well, if everybody stays healthy, you got Harbaugh here, Herbert will be better, Chargers will be better, and then the Bengals again. Burrow's kind of, or the Bengals in general, I guess, since you're a Burrow hater.
I'm not a Burrow hater.
I've always gave Mahomes a pretty hard time.
You're only digging yourself a hole here with Burrow and Mahomes for Burrow. But, I think for me, it's just the quarterbacks in the NFL, I feel like there's some of them that got hurt this year. I'm not going to go down the long list of names, but I feel like that is one thing that most of us look forward to. And obviously, there's going to be injuries next year, but I think just getting all those guys back, especially with this upcoming draft class with Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and then many others, like I feel like the quarterbacks in the NFL are only getting better. And I'd love to see Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels all go to the NFC just to make it more balanced. But when the NFL season ends, there's really never an off season for the NFL because in a couple weeks we'll be talking about the NFL draft, and that feels like the NFL draft is one time of the year where every fan feels like they're winning the Super Bowl next year because they got to draft the guy in the 17th pick who's not going to be on the roster in 3 years, but they got the Super Bowl winner right there.
If you enjoyed this week's show, make sure that we'll come back next week where we'll recap this week's college basketball games, NBA All-Star Game, and much more. Remember, our show airs every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Also, it's now available on YouTube, WJHS Studios.